On September 27th, 2 Chinese naval missile boats were in the West Philippine Sea's exclusive economic zone. They reportedly aimed military-grade lasers at a Philippine Cessna 208 seaplane patrolling the South China Sea. These lasers emitted 3 bursts of high-intensity white light, causing severe discomfort to the pilot's eyes. However, the actual situation turned out to be unexpected. It is understood that the Chinese Type 022 missile boats are not equipped with high-intensity laser weapons. Instead, they use OT-3 electro-optical tracking systems. These systems emit laser beams to target objects and calculate the distance based on the reflected signals. They can also track the trajectory and speed of targets in real time. Images show that the system is a long-range multifunction electro-optical pod. It integrates a visible light camera, an infrared thermal imager, and a laser rangefinder. Based on its size, the laser's power might range from several dozen to over 100 watts. The exact power levels, however, have not been disclosed. This means the report might be incorrect. Rather than white laser light, the beam was likely an infrared laser. Due to its high intensity, the pilot might have mistaken it for white light. This isn't the first time China has been accused of such provocative acts. Last year, the Philippine Coast Guard accused Chinese vessels of using military-grade lasers near the Second Thomas Shoal. A Filipino crew member was temporarily blinded during that incident. In response to these criticisms, China remained silent. They neither confirm nor deny the allegations. China's response reflects both its anxiety and ambition in the field of laser weapons. On one hand, China is aware of the gap between its capabilities and those of countries like the U.S. From its low-altitude guard in 2014 to the Silent Hunter in 2017 to the LW-30 laser defense weapon in 2021, China's laser power has remained around 30 kilowatts. This limitation comes from using outdated CO2 laser technology, which the U.S. abandoned in the 1970s. Military experts say that China's most advanced ship-based laser weapons have a range of only 2 to 3 kilometers. Even U.S. systems from the 1980s had better range. China's 30 to 50 kilowatt lasers also suffer from unstable power and short operating times during real-world use. In contrast, Western countries like the U.S. moved to chemical and solid-state lasers in the 1980s. These systems now have higher power output and are ready for deployment. The Helios system, for example, is a 60-kilowatt fiber optic solid-state laser. It is said to have an energy conversion efficiency near 50%. However, even this system can't yet intercept anti-ship missiles directly. By the end of 2023, the U.S. completed ship-based tests for a 150-kilowatt solid-state laser system on the USS Portland. Last July, the U.S. Department of Defense awarded Lockheed Martin a contract to upgrade laser systems from 300 kilowatts to 500 kilowatts. At the same time, China tries to portray itself as a leader in laser weapons. Chinese media claims that the Silent Hunter lasers sold to Saudi Arabia can burn through 5 layers of steel at 800 meters. But physics suggests otherwise. A 30-kilowatt laser loses most of its power after traveling through 800 meters of air. At that distance, it would only have about 4 watts of power, about the same as an LED light bulb. Clearly, an LED light can't burn through steel. These exaggerated claims don't reflect the real capabilities of China's laser weapons. Despite this, some Chinese and international media continue to promote the Silent Hunter as a success. In March 2022, Saudi Arabia claimed that the system shot down 13 suicide drones. At first glance, this sounds impressive, but closer analysis reveals problems. Laser's effective range for destruction is less than 100 meters, not 800 meters as claimed. Also, downing 13 drones likely happened over multiple missions, not all at once. Laser weapons have limitations such as heat capacity and energy consumption. They can't attack multiple targets in quick succession. If the Silent Hunter were truly that powerful, it would be in high demand by militaries worldwide. In fact, the Silent Hunter played a minor role in Saudi Arabia's fight against Houthi drones. The Houthis launched 400 to 500 drone attacks within a year, while only 8 Silent Hunter systems were deployed. These systems managed to shoot down 13 drones. By comparison, Saudi Arabia's French-made Control-NG missile systems and Germany's Mantis systems were far more effective. These well-established systems perform much better in intercepting drones and cruise missiles. Saudi Arabia's attitude towards the Silent Hunter is also revealing. If the system had truly performed well, the Saudis would have equipped it on a larger scale and publicized its success. But after some initial promotion, the Silent Hunter faded from the spotlight. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia's preference for French and German systems is clear. More importantly, beyond Saudi Arabia, few countries have shown interest in purchasing the Silent Hunter. After evaluating different air defense systems, most nations still favor Western options. Even those interested in laser weapons are more likely to choose American systems. This shows that while China has made some advancements in laser technology, it still faces challenges in breaking into the international market and building trust with customers. Chinese media has been promoting coherent beam combining technology, claiming it can merge multiple weak laser beams into one powerful high-energy beam. This beam is said to have higher brightness and greater destructive force. In theory, the technology has significant potential, especially for precision strikes. By using this method, lasers can overcome atmospheric turbulence and maintain strong focus and power density over long distances. If the technology matures, it could deliver more damage with less overall power. However, this technology is not unique to China. In fact, the U.S. has been researching it for a longer time and in more depth. As early as the beginning of the 21st century, the U.S. began exploring how to use coherent beam combining in directed energy weapons. In 2022, Lockheed Martin successfully delivered a 300-kilowatt prototype laser weapon using this technology. The U.S. military plans to deploy this advanced laser system by 2024. Notably, according to Nikkei Asia, on September 22, 2022, the U.S. Navy destroyer USS Preble left San Diego and headed to the Yokosuka Naval Base in Japan. It is the only Arleigh Burke-class destroyer equipped with high-energy laser weapons. The ship has advanced optical detection and guidance systems that can intercept drones and missile targets. This shows that the U.S. is already applying coherent beam combining technology to combat platforms. In contrast, China is still focused on laboratory research and media promotion, highlighting the gap between the two countries. This gap is not limited to laser weapons. Even in traditional military equipment design and production, China struggles to match the capabilities of advanced Western nations. Take the Type 022 missile boat from this incident. Although it is small and fast, reaching speeds of 50 knots, its stability and reliability in rough seas are still below similar patrol boats from Israel like the Sar or Shalda classes. While China has made progress in laser weapons and coherent synthesis technology, much of its success seems to be mere propaganda. The recent laser incident in the South China Sea, despite media hype, does not reflect the true power of the technology. Instead, China's actions appear to be more about political and strategic motives. They aim to project strength and intimidate both the Philippines and the international community. The real issue lies in the broader context of territorial disputes in the South China Sea and ongoing geopolitical tensions. The United States has long recognized China's ambition to gain the capability to attack Taiwan by around 2027. In response, the U.S. has started building strategic positions around Taiwan, including the Philippines and the South China Sea. The Pentagon has already set up several military bases on Luzon Island. These bases now have F-35 stealth fighters and new medium-range ballistic missiles, making China uneasy. In February 2022, the U.S. gained access to 4 new military bases in the Philippines. These bases are about 250 miles from the Taiwan Strait. If a crisis in the Taiwan Strait escalates into armed conflict, these bases would become the U.S. military's frontline posts. Notably, in April, the U.S. deployed the latest Typhoon missile system on Luzon Island. The system has arranged to cover China's entire southeast coast, sending a strong message to China's military planners. The Typhoon's missile system has 4 units, each equipped with 4 missiles. It can launch Tomahawk cruise missiles for ground attacks and Standard 6 intercept missiles to destroy enemy aircraft, anti-ship missiles, and even ballistic missiles. In certain modes, the Standard 6 missile can also target enemy ships and other surface vessels. If tensions in the Taiwan Strait suddenly rise, the U.S. could use the storm system on Luzon Island to strike Chinese warships and aircraft threatening Taiwan. In critical moments, it could even target China's military bases and strategic sites. In March last year, F-22 Raptor stealth fighters returned to Clark Air Base in the Philippines after several years. This move further strengthened the U.S. air dominance in the region. Clark Air Base is on the western side of Luzon Island, facing both the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait. Along with other U.S. military facilities like Subic Bay Naval Base, the Baguio Naval Communications Station, and San Miguel Naval Medical Center, it forms a strong military presence. These bases could play a key role in any Taiwan Strait conflict. During the Cold War, these bases were some of the largest in Southeast Asia and even hosted B-52 strategic bombers. If a full-scale crisis erupts in the Taiwan Strait, U.S. F-35 fighters would engage Chinese forces over southern Taiwan. At the same time, U.S. Tomahawk cruise missiles would launch heavy attacks on Chinese Air Force bases. Land-based Standard 6 missiles would provide air defense cover, while F-22 fighters offer tactical support. Together, this defense network would be tough for the Chinese military to overcome. However, one major obstacle for the U.S. to intervene in the Taiwan Strait from the Philippines is political. But this obstacle seems to be fading. In the South China Sea, Chinese Coast Guard vessels have repeatedly harassed Philippine supply ships. In March, they fired water cannons at a Philippine Navy vessel. In June, they seriously injured a Philippine Marine. Each of these incidents pushes the Philippines closer to the U.S. and speeds up its military cooperation with other global powers. These countries are growing increasingly wary of China's expansionism and will likely stand with the U.S. From a military standpoint, the Philippines doesn't need to launch missiles or send out fighter jets to counter China. All it needs to do is provide the U.S. with forward bases and allow heavy weapons on its territory. This alone could shift the balance in both the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait. The roots of the South China Sea sovereignty dispute date back to 1947, when the Republic of China first declared its 11-dash line. After the Communist Party took power in 1953, it reduced this to the current 9-dash line, which it officially announced. This line covers about 80% of the South China Sea, with China claiming sovereignty over the waters and the islands within. In the mid-20th century, control over the South China Sea by surrounding countries was weak. However, starting in the 1970s, Vietnam, the Philippines, and Malaysia began establishing a presence on the Spratly Islands. Taiwan has controlled the largest island, Taiping, since 1946. During this period, sovereignty disputes had not yet reached their peak, but tensions were already beginning to show. China's assertive actions in the South China Sea began in the 1980s and intensified as its economic power grew. The passage of China's law on the Territorial Sea and contiguous zone in 1992 marked the first step in giving its claims a legal basis. However, the turning point came in 2009 when the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea required countries to submit documents defining their exclusive economic zones. China submitted one containing the 9-dash line. This sparked strong reactions from neighboring countries, especially Vietnam and the Philippines, who rejected China's claims, arguing that the line lacks legal basis under international law. These countries' claims are based on the 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone defined by the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, while China's 9-dash line is based on historical rights. This difference in claims has led to ongoing legal disputes in the international arena. Tensions escalated in 2013 when the Philippines brought China to the Permanent Court of Arbitration, challenging the legality of the 9-dash line. In 2016, the tribunal ruled in favor of the Philippines, stating that China's claims had no legal basis and that the Spratly Islands were within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. China rejected the ruling and accelerated its construction and militarization of artificial islands in the South China Sea. By 2019, runways and ports were operational, and China regularly conducted military exercises, further increasing tensions in the region. After the COVID-19 pandemic broke out, China more frequently countered U.S. and other nations' freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea. At the same time, it stepped up its pressure on neighboring countries through aggressive maritime actions. These moves caught the attention of the U.S. and other global powers. In 2021, China's Coast Guard law took effect, marking a new phase in its South China Sea strategy. This law allows the Chinese Coast Guard to board, inspect, and detain foreign ships, and even use force in certain situations. It greatly increases the risk of legal and military conflict. Many analysts note that since China placed its Coast Guard under the command of the People's Armed Police, it has become more of a quasi-military force. Research from the U.S. Naval War College shows that China's Coast Guard has over 140 large patrol ships, more than the combined fleets of the U.S., Japan, and the Philippines. Recently, China's Coast Guard has even started equipping 10,000-ton Type 055 frigates. Although these ships no longer carry missiles, they still have 76mm cannons and advanced electronic systems, showing China's intent to prepare for future maritime conflicts. The implementation of the 2021 Coast Guard law not only gives China legal backing for its actions, but also follows the principle of might makes right. This approach goes against the spirit of modern international law. China's actions are quietly changing the rules in the South China Sea, creating serious risks for future conflicts. The South China Sea is one of the world's most important shipping lanes and holds strategic significance for countries like the U.S., Japan, and Australia. In this context, the standoff between China and the Philippines is no longer a local issue, but a reflection of broader regional and international power struggles. China's aggressive actions in the South China Sea have backfired, prompting a stronger response from regional and global powers. Vietnam, Malaysia, and Indonesia have all ramped up military capabilities and maritime patrols. Japan and Australia have also become more involved in regional security, creating multiple layers of deterrence against China. The South China Sea is not China's private lake, and the surrounding nations are not its subjects. China's aggressive stance reflects its expansionist ambitions and challenges the post-World War II international order. China's military moves and unilateral actions will inevitably provoke a response from both regional and global powers. The U.S. and its allies have already begun laying the groundwork for a strategic response containing China on multiple fronts. All of this reminds China that stirring up trouble in the South China Sea will only bring consequences it may struggle to bear.